Today, we're going to be talking about two of my favorite topics, relationships and the Enneagram. So, most people are familiar with Dr. Gary Chapman's 5 love languages. Most people I interact with, they've already heard of that and they know them pretty well. And most people know their own love language. But today, I just want to do a fun thing of trying to connect that with the Enneagram. I've noticed that sometimes there are certain patterns that I start to see when I'm talking to people of different Enneagram types. Now, this can never be 100% foolproof kind of science, right? So everybody's unique, everybody's different, everybody's special, everybody has wings and subtypes, and that's greatly going to affect what they think they need in order to feel loved or cared about in a relationship. But that's what this video is all about. It's that sometimes you're trying to communicate love in a way that feels meaningful to you, but it may not necessarily feel as meaningful to your partner. So really understanding yourself and understanding your partner's needs is what this is all about. Knowing their Enneagram type is super helpful. Knowing that your wife is a 3 or that your husband's a 5, that should greatly impact the way you try to interact with them. But also then going the next step and saying, do you know what your most important love language is? Do you know? Tell me how to love you right. What makes you feel loved and cared for? Chapman's list of 5 love languages is super helpful in helping us understand more about how to be in a relationship with this person that we care about. And so let's take a second and just review those quickly, and then we'll move on. So according to the 5 love languages, each of us receives love in a particular way. People could love me in a lot of ways, but it won't necessarily be as meaningful until they find the right way to communicate love to you or to me. And so the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, building another person up, admiring them, appreciation, validation, whatever you want to call it. And then the second one is quality time, spending time with this person. So you could do a lot of things for the person you love, but if you don't spend time with them, they're not going to feel valued or cared for. Number 3 is physical touch. So that could be, affection or just taking the time to hold hands or put your arm around them. And number 4 is acts of service. So if you really love me, go out and paint the fence. If you really care about me, then, go ahead and wash the dishes or mow the lawn. And the last one is receiving gifts. And for some people, gifts are very important, especially if they have some kind of meaning attached to them. And so all 5 of these are great ways for you to show love to the people in your life when appropriate. But typically, people will find one of these resonates more with them than the others, or maybe let's say 2. One or 2 kind of comes to the surface, and if you love the person in that way, it feels like it kind of fills their love tank. Let's say it that way. I think an important thing before we move on is I really appreciate the work from Dr. Willard Harley as well. He's the guy that wrote His Needs, Her Needs. There's a lot of other books that he wrote, but basically in his research, he discovered 10 needs that we all have that we bring into a relationship. And I refer to this often in my marriage coaching appointments with people. And I think I'd like to tag this in there as well. If you're familiar with Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, I think you'll appreciate also the 10 needs. And what Harley found is that all of us have these 10 basic needs, which overlap with the 5 love languages. I don't want to overwhelm or confuse, but let me just put the 10 needs up on the screen for you. And what Harley found is that everybody has a need for affection, a need for conversational companions, somebody that will interact with us in a conversation in a way that feels pleasant and meaningful to you. Like, for example, you may want a debater, but you may not always want a debater. You may want somebody who's a student, who's learning at your feet and learning your wisdom. Or you may want an audience who just laughs, and or you may want, an intimate conversational partner. And understanding what you need in a conversational companion can be a powerful first step in helping your communication level in your marriage. Number 3 is honesty and openness. A lot of people are honest, but they're not very open. They're kind of guarded, and they don't share what's going on, beneath the surface. Number 4 is financial stability. It's hard to have a great marriage when you're worried about paying your bills all the time, when you're afraid they're going to repossess the car. And then number 5 is family involvement. In other words, if you want me to feel loved, then you gotta play well with the kids. If the kids are always a problem in your life, then it's gonna affect our marriage. Number 6 is sexual fulfillment, and that's kind of self-explanatory. Number 7 is recreational companion. Let's go do fun things together. Let's go to the museum. Let's go to the horseback riding or something. Let's go have a good time together. I feel like we're connecting when we're playing together. Next is physical attractiveness. Like, I want my wife to be pretty, or I want my husband to not let himself go and, just become an old hairy bear. Okay. And then next is domestic support. There's a lot of jobs that need to be done around the house. The kids need lunches made. The insurance forms have to be filled out. The dog's got to be taken to the vet, and I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need your help. Or I feel loved when I see you getting things done and being productive around the house. And then the last one is admiration. Admiration, like words of affirmation, very similar. But I think also it could include appreciation or sometimes even validation. When somebody's feeling very low and you validate those feelings, it's a way of showing admiration or appreciation. So there's the 10 needs. And notice it's called his needs, her needs, because what's interesting is the top 5 needs tend to relate more to the average wife or woman or female, and the bottom 5 needs tend to relate better to the average guy or the average male. It doesn't always work that way, and Harley's the first one to say there's no average people out there, but if you were to poll 100, men and 100 women, they'll tend to move these into those categories. Just interesting stuff. I don't want to fight about it, but it's interesting how that sometimes works out. What's important in all of this, the bottom line in all of this, is to know yourself and to know your partner. That's the bottom line. Is you want to think about, what are my top needs, or what is my dominant love language? I want to know what those things are. And if I understand those, then I could communicate those to my spouse, and hopefully they'll care. Hopefully they'll want to love me in a way that feels meaningful to me. They'll use the currency, of my country, and not try to, we'll have this weird interaction where they're trying to love me in a way that feels meaningful to them. When you try to love somebody in a way that feels meaningful to you but not to them, it's going to feel like you're taking something, like you're trying to take something from them. Because in a sense you are. You're trying to love them. Let me give you an example. If my greatest need was for recreational companion, which is pretty typical of type 7s, and my wife's greatest need was for financial stability, imagine if I said, I just spent our last $300 buying concert tickets because I love you so much. Now, in my head, that makes sense because I'm trying to meet a need for recreational companion, but that's really my need. Her need was for financial stability. It'd be far better if I went out and got a second job. And if I really wanted her to feel loved, go out and get a second job and contribute to her financial stability need. So when you don't do this well, instead of showing love, it's actually going to look the opposite. It's going to look like you're trying to take something. In your mind, you're really trying to love them because you're doing something that would feel valuable to you. And there's the point. We got to figure out what would feel valuable to them. Now, let's take these concepts, okay, of the 10 needs and the 5 love languages, and let's try to shove these into the Enneagram and see if we can find some connections here. And I often find these connections when I'm coaching people and relationships. When I'm doing marriage coaching, it doesn't surprise me. For example, if I find out that the wife is a 1, for example, I can almost kind of predict which ones of these needs are going to come to the surface and feel most valuable to that person who is a 1 or a 2 or a 3. You get the idea? And it's not a perfect science. And sometimes I'm still surprised. I'm still like, wow, okay. I didn't see that coming. But again, everybody's unique, everybody's different, and not all ones are the same, and not all twos are the same. And we got to understand that. You are a unique individual, okay? Your marriage is unique. And also keep in mind that whatever's going on in your life at the time could greatly affect what needs rise to the top. So for example, if you just lost a job, okay, or you're having medical crisis and your financial, is under strain, or the economy is down the toilet, and all of a sudden, any one of us, financial stability could come right to the top and be the most important need that we feel in our relationship, depending on our circumstances. Or, for example, if you're having a hard time at work and you're feeling beat up and unappreciated, then obviously those words of admiration or affirmation could all of a sudden feel much more necessary in your life. Or if you've got a lot of kids, let's say you're a family that has 5, 6 kids, 7 kids, weirdos. We have 5 kids. But if you have 5, 6, 7 kids or something like that, well, you can imagine domestic support might be much more important to you, or financial stability, or possibly family involvement. And so depending on how your home is structured, that also, I think, plays into what needs are going to rise to the top for you, or what you're going to feel most important to you. So let's begin this journey together today. We're going to take our time and really try to unpack a little bit about each type. I'm so excited that you're leaning in and wanting to know how to love your partner better. That is such a beautiful thing, and I know that that's going to be honored, and hopefully it will be reciprocated. That's the idea, is as I learn to love you better. Let me just say this, okay, before we move into the types, all right? It's really hard to express love to a person when you don't feel very loved by them. Okay? There's a principle. Let me state it in the negative first. It's really hard to show love or to express love to a person when you don't feel loved by them. Now, they may be loving you, true enough. The problem is you're not feeling that love from them. It's not moving up away from the decision kind of love into the feeling kind of love. It's really hard to love somebody when you don't feel very loved by them. But here's the cool thing. You can flip that principle around and you see where there's some hope. It's really hard to resist someone who's loving you in a way that feels meaningful to you. Okay, let me say that again. It's really hard to resist someone who's loving you in a way that feels meaningful to you. And once we kind of decode what love languages matter most to you, then I have a recipe now. I have a plan. It doesn't give me all the details, but it tells me what direction to move in. If I can love you in a way that feels meaningful to you, it's really hard to resist that. And I think that's sometimes why marriages break down and people are attracted to other people, because somebody comes into your marriage or into your life and starts loving you in a way that feels meaningful to you. And it's really hard to resist that. Even when you want to, it can feel impossible to resist that kind of love. So that love needs to exist inside your marriage. It shouldn't come from outside your marriage. It needs to exist inside your marriage. And you can totally do this. Once you understand this, you can totally do this and in a sense kind of warm up your marriage. If your cabin is cold, don't try to patch every crack in every window and every flaw. Don't go around looking for every flaw. Put a fire in the fireplace, and this will do that. If I understand what you need in order to feel loved, and I start focusing on that, I am putting logs in the fireplace, and we're going to warm up this relationship. And that's my hope for you. That's my dream for you, is that your marriage would be a place of warmth, and not just your marriage. Okay, but your kids will have love languages as well. And you want them to feel loved and supported and cared for. This is such an amazing principle that these two writers are picking up on, that we can leverage in our relationships so that everybody feels loved and cared for. And again, let me just say this. I can't make you feel something. I really can't make you feel it, but I can create a greenhouse around you that supports you and provides everything you need, but still it's not always 100% guaranteed. So you got to be okay with that. And you got to understand that at the end of the day, I can't make a person feel something. I can work really hard to try to help them feel loved and cared for, but who knows what kind of trauma or negative experiences have happened in their life, doubt and fear. And so you could do all of this perfectly well and not get it reciprocated in the way that would feel meaningful to you. And that's very frustrating, but I think those are the minority of the cases. Okay, so let's go into this with a positive attitude, with a positive mindset, believing that our actions matter. And even if I did all of this super well and really learned how to love my wife perfectly, I would only be doing what I promised to do on the day we got married. So I made a commitment to love her well, and I need to do that whether she responds to me exactly the way I would like or not. But it's much more likely that the people that you love will respond to you in a way that feels meaningful to you when you know how to love them in a way that feels meaningful to them. I love this because it gets the focus off of ourselves and onto our partner, and we're really talking about, at the end of the day, how can I love you better? And that is just a beautiful way to begin. That's just a beautiful way to start. So let's dive into this. Let's look at the Enneagram types and see if maybe we can find some ballparks to play in. We might not get it perfect. We might not get it exact for you, but we're going to maybe get into the right ballpark. And I'm so curious to hear your comments through this video. So if you want to put your type and then maybe put your love language, and we'll just see if I get close. Okay. All right. So let's go on this journey together. Thank you for joining me for this video. All right. We're going to start off with type 1, the perfectionist, the reformer. And just hear that. There's going to be some challenges, isn't there? When you're trying to love somebody who has a very idealistic way of doing things, okay, you get it, right? And also, sometimes it can be hard to love somebody or be around somebody who's bothered and upset by things all the time. But so you got to be able to, somebody in this relationship needs to have some kind of connection to 9 or 5 or something like that. They can be a little detached, and it would be great if everyone had a strong 9 wing where they could just kind of let things go. But if they don't, then you're going to have to work on some 9ness yourself in that relationship. Let's start with type 1s. I think that a 1, something that's going to be valuable to them is whether we use the term acts of service from Gary Chapman's love languages, or whether we use domestic support from Willard, Harley, and his needs, her needs. I think we're getting to the same point here, is that 1s are going to appreciate somebody who's working, being dutiful, getting things done, helping around the house. I've always said, if you want your 1 to feel loved, then go out front and help them with the lawn work. You're going to have to, they want to maybe see you doing some jobs around the house. And when you are, a heart feely, affectionate kind of person, this might be very discouraging. You think, in order for you to feel loved, I have to go out in the yard and work. In order for you to feel loved, I have to go out and rearrange the patio furniture and power wash the patio. Yeah, probably. I would say this often comes to the top with 1s, which in my mind is so strange, because 1s probably provide so much domestic support and acts of service around the house that you got to think, why would I even enter this contest? You obviously are the acts of service master. You're the domestic support master. Why do you need me to show up in this way? But I think often with 1s, like, if you want them to feel loved and cared about, then you're going to have to work. You're going to have to do some jobs around the house. They want to see you and do this with you and connect with you through working and serving. You want to connect with a 1, go out and work with them. I think other things that might be important to a 1s, I think conversational companion. I mean, everybody wants somebody to talk to. And I think with a 1, you got to be careful about not criticizing them, Be careful to show respect to them and don't be critical with them. And when you see them get frustrated and upset and grouchy and grumbly, don't overreact to that. Okay. Try not to overreact to that. Maybe think to yourself something like this. Don't say this out loud, but maybe think to yourself something like this. Wow, it must be tough living in there with that judgmental anger, criticism stuff, always frustrated and irritated about the little things in life. And if I focus a spotlight on that, then it's probably going to magnify. And now we get into an argument and a debate. And most of the time, if I just show some benign neglect, or maybe say something like, ease up, man, I'm your friend, something like that. I think if I just kind of don't overreact to their little grouchy, grumbly frustrations, is probably going to have a lot better interactions together. I know it can get exhausting because it gets exhausting being around somebody who's upset and bothered by stuff all the time, but that's part of oneness. I think if you can look at it like, I'm not really frustrated with my husband or my wife, I'm frustrated with their oneness, then it sort of lets them off the hook. And then you can have a little more compassion for this person because you're thinking, poor person, poor husband, poor wife, they live under the weight of all this responsibility all the time. It must be difficult for them. And see, there's where the compassion of knowing the Enneagram can really help us. So I think conversational companion would be high on their list. I imagine honesty and openness, because who really wants to be lied to, right? Honesty and openness would be important. Financial stability. I would say financial stability. It's probably more like financial accountability. I could see the one you come home and you spend money and why did you need to buy that? And we don't really need this. And do you have the receipts? I could see where a one could be a little control. I mean, think Dave Ramsey, I think, is a one, right? The money guy, the finance guy. And so I could see financial stability. I don't know that they necessarily need you to be working to provide for the needs because they probably could be very independent themselves and they're going to be dutiful and responsible and have a good job and all that. But I would say it's not really financial stability that they would want from you, but maybe financial accountability from you. And there's a difference there, isn't there? And I think also admiration could be high because, like you never criticize a one. Well, then the opposite of that would be to show some appreciation or some admiration. And then when they get low, some validation for how they're being misunderstood. And, okay, you get it. All right. So acknowledge their efforts and show appreciation for their dedication and for their willingness to do things well. And then help them with the domestic tasks that need to be done and show your support. And I think you're well on your way to helping your one feel loved and cared about. All right, let's move on to type twos. The big-hearted, loving, but sometimes easily hurt, sensitive, very feeling-oriented type twos. And type twos, depending on their wings, they can look very different, but they do kind of go out into this world feeling this great responsibility to be aware of people's needs and then to do their best to try to meet those needs if possible. Now, they can get exhausted and they can get burned out and they can get hurt like everybody can. But at their core, they come into this world with this great capacity to love people and to receive love from others. And when I think about their love language, I mean, it could be anything, right? But I would say probably words of affirmation would come to the top. Now, again, everybody's unique, everybody's different, and you need to know what your needs are. But I'm just thinking in general terms, it can be very powerful for a two to hear how much you care about them, to hear how much you appreciate them. And that words of affirmation, words of appreciation. I remember Beatrice Chestnut, who I have an interview on my channel with her. If you want to go back in my videos and find that, I'll put it in the link in the description. But she's a two, and she says it like this. Appreciation is the oxygen that twos breathe. The never ever behavior for a two is never take a two for granted. And when you take a two for granted, what are you doing? You're not giving them the appreciation or the thanks. Let's just say it that way, because maybe it seems a little creepy if I say, that you have to give them the appreciation because they don't like to be a person that has a lot of needs. But I think every two would agree that, yeah, when somebody does something nice for you, you should say thank you. You should acknowledge it. And you'll see twos doing this. Whenever somebody does something for them, you'll see twos go out of their way to appreciate that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Let me send you a card. Let me send you a thank you card for the thank you card you sent me. You'll see them going out of their way to acknowledge and appreciate and show thanks. And I think it could be very very devastating for a two when they do serve others and they don't get any words of affirmation or any sign of appreciation. I would imagine that a lot of twos might just think, I don't know how to connect with this person. I've tried and I'm just going to have to sever ties with them. So I would say words of affirmation, but it could very well also be quality time, because I think twos, they would love to connect with you and have time with you. I think physical touch could be really important as well for a twos. Affection is so important for most twos, that those symbols of your love, and then acts of service could be important. So I think twos, because they're such a love connection oriented type, I think that all of those 5 love languages could be important. And there's a couple types that are like this that I almost think, yeah, probably all of them. You probably need to do all of them. And maybe there is one, and your two will have to tell you what that one is that rises to the top. But when in doubt, do all of them. And I would say twos might be one of those candidates for all of these, because connection is so important. Relationships are so important. Probably the most relationship oriented type on the Enneagram. Okay. So all of these could be essential. All right. And then when I think about the 10 needs, if I were looking at that list, I would say affection might be number one. Admiration, appreciation, that's going to be high on the list. I've never met a two yet that appreciation is not important to. Conversational companion, I think that's going to be high on the list, because one of the ways that we have these positive interactions is through talking to each other, through sharing our hearts, sharing our dreams, our feelings, and all these things that can be hard sometimes for guys. Conversational companion, honesty and openness, family involvement. I mean, think about twos, the proverbial bring everybody together for the holidays, or we're having a thunderstorm, we're bringing everybody together for the hurricane, we're going to feed everybody and take care of everybody. And I can see if you're the kind of spouse that's not important to you, I could see where there could be some problems. And I think domestic support is when this two is overwhelmed with taking care of everybody's needs. Guess who they're going to look at to give them some help? They're going to look at their spouse and say, I need you to help take, care of this person while I'm taking care of these people. So I think domestic support could be high. And again, it's like, wow, it's almost all of them. Yeah, it could be. And sexual fulfillment could be high, and recreational companion could be. And so I think with some of these types, like fives, for example, I think they'll have less needs, but fives tend to not want to be people that need stuff, right? And so that's what we'd say about twos is regularly, what a hard word. It's like faithfully. That's a hard one for me too. Express your gratitude and show them you value their care by doing something thoughtful in return, and give them plenty of affection, plenty of admiration and appreciation, plenty of hugs. And okay. All right. Let's move on to type 3. Okay. Let's talk about type 3s. And type 3s, some of the things I think will come to the surface. Every 3 I've met, these come to the top. And again, you might be unique, but interesting type. Okay, so 3s demonstrate their love by striving to succeed and achieve and create amazing experiences for their loved ones. And so, image is very important to 3s. And often there's a lot of image management that goes on in a 3's life. And they will need to feel a lot of admiration. So I've never met a 3 that admiration wasn't up in the top of their needs. So for the love languages, I would say it's that words of affirmation, being the person that praises them, that acknowledges their work and their effort, that celebrates them. That's a great way to say it. Celebrates them, that gives them recognition for their achievements. Think threes, they need a lot of feedback, right? They're doing all this effort, they're doing all this work, they're running on this treadmill. They need to see results. And you could be the person that gives them that feedback. Now, let me say this in the most uncomfortable way, okay? They really want a cheerleader. They need a cheerleader. And they don't need you to be in competition with them. They need you to be a cheerleader for them. So if you want to connect with a three, assume that role of cheerleader. And my guess is they're probably going to love having you around. Don't get into competition with them, and don't ignore their effort, because you might think, like, for example, an eight might look at a three's effort and think, why do you need all of this? Why do you need everybody to appreciate or admire you? And that is remember, admiration is a real need. We don't live in the Garden of Eden any longer, and we sometimes struggle with issues of value and worth. And three is very much right in the center of that worth and value group, right? So they're doing a lot and doing a lot of effort to prove to themselves and everyone else of their worth and value. Now, they may not see it that way, but it's important that you understand that and see it that way if you're in a relationship with a three. So be the person in their life that sees what they're doing. The never ever behavior for a three is never ignore a three. And so when they accomplish something, or when they've worked really hard after something, be that person on the sidelines in that situation. I'm not telling you be a person on the sidelines, but in their story, be that person on the sidelines that's cheering for them. You got this. You did a great job, man. You knocked it out of the park. You did a wonderful job. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And if you're not the kind of person that says that, it feels awkward to you, you better get good at saying this if you want this three to feel safe and secure in this relationship. I'm so proud of you. You did such a tremendous job. You really overachieved our expectations, or however you want to say it. But that need for admiration is always high for type threes. Now, you'll be the person who's like, not for me, Tom, not for me. I'm going to put it in the comments. It never matters to me. Okay, whatever. I'm just saying, the threes that I've worked with in marriages and relationships, this has been a critical issue. Now, I'm going to go on and say this one too, is often physical attractiveness is important to threes. And not only for themselves, but also for their partner. Like, they want their partner to be fit and toned and tanned and beautiful and whatever, okay? And this can be a challenge sometimes, because maybe you think, I don't really care about that. I don't really care about these things. I think they should love me for me. I think they should love me because I'm a great conversationalist or whatever. I get that, right? I understand. But we're talking about their needs and what's important to them. And I remember working with a couple in particular in my mind, where he was a three and she was a nine. And this was the critical issue in their marriage. I mean, she was great at all kinds of things, but, time has a way of, we just kind of, anyway. So it can be an awkward moment when you realize that this is true. But physical attractiveness of their spouse can be very important. So maybe you could try to meet this need. You say, yeah, but you're telling me I got to lose weight and go to the gym? Well, you know what? We all probably need to lose weight and go to the gym. It's not just you. It's probably all of us. All of us, could probably do with a 2.0 every once in a while. And I'm telling you, this might be high on your threes list. This might be a very uncomfortable moment. You're sitting there on the couch with your spouse and you're like, is he talking about me? I think domestic support could be high, because think threes, they're overachievers. So their attention is probably focused on out there in the world, their job, their career, and they may not want to give you a lot of time, because they're so focused on being out there, where the rewards and the incentives, on the treadmill are a little bit more obvious. And so they need help around the house getting all these things done that they might be ignoring because they're so focused on their business, or they're so focused on their career, or they're so focused on their physical fitness, or whatever it is. They probably need somebody to come in that will support by making sure all these things get done around the house, or the kids and all those responsibilities as well. And I put gifts down here too. I don't know. It's hard to, I don't see a lot of, it's not like the two where I saw like, oh yeah, everything, but I think gifts might be important as well to type threes. Gifts that, not only are meaningful, but are maybe extravagant. So, from Tiffany's, let's say, extravagant. And you're like, no, that's not me, Tom. I'm going to put it in the comments. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's move on to type 4. Okay. Type 4 is the individualist, the creative, the dramatist. Okay. Now you can already hear right there, right? If you're married to a dramatist, then you can't be overwhelmed when they are. So there's going to be some volatility in this relationship, which will keep things interesting. They probably need you in some ways to create some stability. So be a person that doesn't overreact when they become dramatic, or when they say all of a sudden, hey, there's a big problem here. Okay. Then you want to kind of relax a little bit and listen and connect over the problem without maybe hitting your sirens and alarms as well. Okay. So you might need to provide some stability. Now, 4s express love through deep emotional connections. They can be super, super feeling oriented, super heart oriented. And through a lot of times their gifts, their meaningful gifts of things that, that they remember about you. And, so I think probably the greatest love language could be gifts, but I would say maybe quality time. They feel loved when their partners spend meaningful time with them. And it can be doing all kinds of things. It could be going to concerts, or, listening to a song, or whatever, or watching a movie that, they care about or something. But they need to feel understood. They need to feel appreciated for their uniqueness. They need to be seen and understood as best as you can. Try to understand them. And deep, heartfelt communication and being present with them might be the key. So, and not overreacting. Okay, if you see them, you think they overreact all the time. Okay, well, then you can't. You've got to be stable. And by the way, the never ever behavior for a 4 is never tell them what to do. Because 4s tend to look inward to know what they should do. They tend to look at their feelings, how they feel about something, their intuition, whatever you want to call it, or just their thinking, their thoughts. And they're not going to do what is prescribed to them. Think of it that way. They're not going to do what's prescribed to them. And if you prescribe something to them, you might see them deviate intentionally away from what was prescribed for them. So I would say when it comes to the 10 needs, I think that conversational companion is going to be huge. Conversational companion, being able to talk with deep, meaningful dialogues, and to know yourself and be able to express yourself without getting agitated or irritated. They're going to maybe test you a little bit with those conversations, and you want to respond well in those conversations. I think admiration is high, but I wouldn't use the word admiration. I would use the word validation. Remember, the sin of 4s is envy, so they often feel like life is unfair for them. The speaking style is lamenting. And so when they're lamenting to you how they've been misunderstood or mistreated, what are they looking for? Think about it like that. What are they looking for? Remember, they're a worth and value type, so they're looking for understanding, yes, of course. But beyond understanding, I'd say they're looking for validation. They're looking for somebody to say, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I can't imagine they said that to you. Then what happened? See, the conversational companion, then what happened? Well, then they did this, and then they said this, and then I felt this, and then, oh, that's terrible. That's awful. Wow, that's, how did you manage to, and then I think words that validate their experience, that basically are saying, yeah, that's not fair. They shouldn't have treated you that way. And I'm sorry you're going through this, and I'm here for you to be in this with you. And, that's all validating. It's affirming, but it's sort of like affirming whatever the problem is that they're upset about. So you're saying, I can't imagine how this must feel for you. That's awful. And tell me more. Okay. And I think that is going to pull a 4 in to really feel connected to you. So conversational companion, admiration slash validation, I think is the key word, and appreciation. Everybody wants to be appreciated. I think honesty and openness is huge. Honesty and openness. Um, Fours are great in that they're going to get you to not only know them, but get you to know yourself. And you may not want to be that. You may not want to do that. Some of us, we don't like knowing ourselves. We don't like digging in there. And they're going to continue to, sort of prod. What do you think about this? Don't you have an opinion about this? How do you feel about this? And so if you become very guarded with them, I could see that being a problem. And I think also domestic support could be high. They may not sense this as high, but I'm thinking about the 4 doesn't want to give all their time to doing the mundane things that need to be done. So I could see where they would really appreciate somebody who does the mundane things around the house and in the marriage that just need to be taken care of so that they can express themselves in their creative ways because they're not tied down to all the housework and all of the mundane things that have to be done. So, and I think I did mention gifts, didn't I? I think gifts could be high but gifts, I think they need to be meaningful. You can't just Amazon cart, crap to them. I don't think that's going to feel meaningful to them. I think if you could remember something that they care about, like maybe they tell you that their best day ever was they went to a concert from some band, probably some band I've never heard of because they're a 4. So I'm just going to go, this is so cringy, right? But I'm going to say they went to the Misfits, right? And that was the best day of their life ever. Well, and so then, 2 years later on Christmas, you get them a Misfits t-shirt. This is so cringy. I'm going to stop. Okay. But validate their feelings, appreciate their creativity, their uniqueness, engage in intimate conversations, and spend quality time together. All right. I think we got it. Let's move on to 5. Okay, let's talk about 5s, the investigator, the observer. Now, 5s, they often show their love by respecting your boundaries that you didn't know you had, by expressing their interest in topics and sharing that interest and that information with you, whether you want them to or not sometimes, but having quality time and intellectual discussions and respecting each other's boundaries, and maybe coming alongside of you to provide problem solving for whatever's going on in your life. And so whether you want them to or not, you're giving them the story about what happened at work. And, like ones, they probably want to problem solve that. They feel loved when their need for space is respected. So this is kind of tricky, right? Because you're hearing this and you're like, okay, so the way to love them is don't interact with them. Well, a little bit sometimes. I think one of the ways to love them is to respect their space, to give them their space, sort of give them their sense of autonomy. They want to be seen as a self-reliant, or actually, they don't want to be seen at all. Their superpower is invisibility. They want to be understood. They want to understand themselves to be a self-reliant person who doesn't have a lot of needs. After all, the tree for the 5 is the cactus. So how do you love a cactus? Well, you give them some space. You don't intrude. You try to warm up before you just invade their space. And so this can be a little tricky, right? This can be a little tricky. But I would say that, affection is going to be an issue. And I would say, I'm not saying don't show any affection, but you need to know what the appropriate affection is for them. So let's just use the word balanced, a balanced form of affection. They may not need a lot of affection, which could be problematic if you are the kind of person that likes to show a lot of affection or needs a lot of affection from your partner, because 5s as a group, tend to not be affection oriented. Now, again, somebody's gonna be like, well, that's not me at all the time. I love affection and I'm a 5. Okay. I get it. So there's always, again, remember, this is you need to know you. I'm speaking in very general terms, and I'm hoping to just ignite some interest in you in this kind of way of thinking. And to investigate, investigator, go investigate. You've got all the answers. Go make sure that you know yourself and your partner well. And then if you know, for example, that your partner needs a lot of affection, then you better get good at showing it if you ever want this person to feel loved and cared for. You're like, I need to come to you, Tom, because I've got all these problems in my marriage. Well, this is why. You've got to be able to push yourself to speak in a language that's important to your spouse. Now, what does a 5 need from a relationship? Well, we're asking a tough question, because what does a 5 need at all? What do 5s need? They're probably apt to say, I don't need anything. I'm fine the way I am. I'm fine with what I have. I would say quality time could be important when they want to share that quality time, because there may be great, like a camel, doesn't need to drink a lot, and then all of a sudden it drinks 5 gallons of water. I don't know how much camels drink, but you probably do because you're a 5. But imagine like that 5 disappearing, invisibility, disappearing for hours at a time, and then they come out of their hidey hole, they come out of their cave, and now they want to interact. Or sometimes I think 5s, they just want to be around you, but not necessarily talking or listening to you. So they want to be in the presence of their people without necessarily having to feel the need to engage with those people. So I would say quality time might be important when they want on their terms, when they're good and ready. I could see where words of affirmation could be important, because 5s, 3s, and 1s are all in the group, the competency group, and 5s want to feel competent. And so having somebody in their life that say, oh my, that's so amazing. I've never heard this before. And what else? So that conversational companion from the 10 needs, I think, could play into how they could feel loved. Acts of service might be important to them. Gifts might be maybe important, but this is a tough one. This is a challenge. Like where I say 2s and probably 6s, we'll get to them in a minute, need like all of these. I could see where 5s might not need a lot. You put an ice cube on a cactus once a week and the cactus is fine. So they don't require a lot. Now that may not be your interaction at all. You may be like, oh, Tom, you're wrong about all of this. I'm just a person. I could be wrong. Ask my wife. I'm wrong about a lot of things. Okay. So I would say when it comes to the 10 needs, recreational companion could be high for a 5. And it's probably going to be some weird stuff, like fly fishing, or Comic Con. Cringy. Sorry, I went there, but they want to go to Comic Con, and if you're going to connect with them, then you got to learn to speak Klingon and go to the Comic Con. I think balanced affection, conversational companion, domestic support, because there's probably 5s are the type that's most likely to not care about social norms, to not bathe, to not clean their house, to live in a pigsty. Have you ever watched the show Hoarders? Okay, a lot of those people on those shows are 5s. And so I can see where domestic support, now they may not even appreciate, but they have a high need for it probably. Now, again, there's going to be that 5 who's like, no, I'm Mr. Dapper Man. I'm a minimalist. And a lot of 5s are minimalist. A lot of that group is 5s as well. So I think admiration could be high, that wow, you're an amazing professor. I'm your student. Teach me. You might feel like that is the relationship sometimes. So respect their needs to be alone. Respect their time alone. Show interest in their ideas and projects. Look, if you want your 5 to feel loved, you got to be interested in what they're interested in. Now, you don't really have to be interested in the topic, but if you're interested in them and helping them feel loved, then you've got to make yourself be interested in what they're interested in. There you go. So when they're constantly talking about Corvettes or they're constantly talking about microchips, whatever they're into, or ancient Egypt, you may think to yourself, I don't care about this topic, but I care about them. So I'm going to be interested in the topic because I want them to feel loved, appreciated, valued, and I care about the connection. So tell me more, oh wise wizard. Tell me more. Share activities that stimulate their mind. All right, let's move on to type 6. Okay, and by the way, type 5's the never ever behavior was never underestimate a 5. You know, these are the people that bring spaceships back to Earth with duct tape and air filters. Okay, so let's talk about type 6. Never lie to a 6. Start there. Honesty and openness. Honesty and openness is so high for a 6 that they probably can't even believe it's on the list. They're like, other people, this is negotiable? How is this negotiable? I would so expect that this other person, this partner, is going to be honest with me that I wouldn't even think to put it on the list. And now that you've put it on the list, I'm not even sure that I can trust you. And that's kind of the whole thing, right? Never tell a 6, never ask a 6, do you trust me? Because they did until you asked them. Actually, they didn't, but now they really don't. So what is highest on a 6's list? Well, 6's like 2's, I think. Everything. Yeah, everything. Everything's going to be on the list. I don't know that we can take anything off the list. You know, when you're an anxious type, right? Anything could be a sign that this is going bad. Anything could be a sign that maybe you're not really loyal to this relationship. And so I think everything is important. There may be a couple that rise to the surface, but I think all of them are important. So if you're a 6 and you ever took the 5 love languages test, or you've looked into the his needs, her needs, you might look at the list and be a little perplexed, like, am I the only one that thinks every one of these needs to be, every one of these is important? I can't give up any of these. So that's been my experience with 6's. Not me, Tom. I'm going to put it in the comments. Okay, so 6's express love through loyalty and commitment and dependability. I love all these names that I have for 6's. I've accumulated names for 6's over the years. The guardian, the trooper, the babysitter, the concerned citizen, the cult leader, the cult member, or the cult destroyer. Okay. So receiving love, they need reassurance and consistency. And remember, 6's can be a very volatile type. I wonder what, if I did volatile types, 4 would be the withdrawn volatile type, 6 would be the compliant volatile type. What would be the assertive volatile type? I guess it'd be 8's. You know what? All 3 of those are the reactionary types. 4, 6, and 8. They're the reactionary type. So they tend to react, you know, like, oh crap, what are we going to do? Oh crap, we need to do this. Okay. So I would say that 6's, if I was going to put a love language, physical touch, yes. Quality time, yes. Words of affirmation, heck yes. Acts of service, yes. And what was the other one? Gifts? Probably. So I think this one, you've really got to do some thinking. Is there one that rises to the surface for you? Because I probably can't tell you what it is. It's whatever calms you down and makes you feel like you're supported and that this other person is not upset with you and not against you in any way. So whatever provides reassurance to you. So it could be like that physical touch. Look, I'm holding your hand so you know I'm not mad at you. I'm holding your hand so you know I'm not upset with you. I got you a gift so you know that I like you and think you're great. I'm saying positive affirmation words to you so you know that you're okay and you know that this relationship is safe and that nothing is wrong. Okay, so when I go down the list of 10 needs, yes. Affection, yes. Conversational companion, yes. Honesty and openness, so yes. Financial stability, 100% yes. Especially if there's any kinds of, because, you know, I always say 6's, they're kind of always like, in their minds, 3 steps away from being homeless at any time. And to be able to know that their financial life is stable and they're not going to get their house repossessed or their car repossessed, or they're not going to end up in jail because of tax fraud or something. That is huge. Admiration, yes. Because, you know, they're questioning, am I okay? Is everything okay? Did I do a good job? Are you happy with me? Are you upset with me? And so that words of affirmation or admiration or appreciation, I think, yes. Physical attractiveness, probably yes. Maybe not. Maybe depending on, your age and who you are as a person and your family involvement. Yes. Family involvement. We're a Gator family or we're a Wildcat family. And so everybody in the family, we're a Chevy family, everybody in the family. So yes, family involvement. Don't move this 6 away from their hometown. They want to move you and the world to their hometown. These are hometown people, right? Go Roll Tide, right? So cringy. I'm so cringy sometimes. Family involvement, yes. What's the rest of the list? Affection, yes. Conversational companion, yes. Honesty, yes. Financial stability, yes. Family involvement, yes. Sexual fulfillment, I would guess yes. Recreational companion, especially if they're a 7-wing. If they're a 6-wing 7, recreational companion. Let's go do fun things together. Physical attraction, yeah. Domestic support, yes. Admiration, yes. So if you married a 6, you better get good at all these things. Provide reassurance, be consistent in your actions, building trust and security, offer physical touch to comfort and reassure. All right. Okay. Easy, right? So easy. Let's move on to 7. Okay. Type 7. If you're married to a 7, laugh at their jokes. There you go. The end. Move on to 8. If you're married to a 7, they want a recreational companion. Now, let me say this in the most disgusting way I can say it, right? When you want to be a companion or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a husband or a wife to a 7, then you've got to be willing to do what the 7 was going to do without you on their own anyway. In other words, they want a travel buddy. They want somebody that they have this grand idea. Hey, you know what we should do? We should drive all the way across the state to this taco place that, I read about on the internet or somebody told me about. And when you say, no, that's a bad idea, watch the 7 go, fine, whatever, right? And so I would say recreational companion is huge for most 7s. And the never ever behavior for a 7 is never try to control a 7. Their superpower is teleportation. You'll see them just teleport away because they hate anything that feels restrictive, anything that feels constricting or limits their options. So they love spontaneity, they love fun, and they're going to say inappropriate things that they hope that you will laugh at. And if you're a judgmental person that says, well, that's not nice, or that's not funny, or that's not... They love to share their adventures. They love to keep things exciting. They love it when their sense of fun is appreciated. I'm reading my notes here, stuff I wrote down here about this. I would say their top need is going to be either sexual fulfillment. I mean, they're a 7, right? Or recreational companion. That's going to be high on their list. Let's go do fun things together. Let's go out into this world and let's connect by laughing, skipping, singing, playing, comedy shows and theme parks and adventures and touring new cities. And let's go have fun together. Laugh with me, play with me, have fun with me. And you say, well, what about affection? What about physical touch? Yeah, I think it can be really important, but it could feel obligatory if you need a lot of that maybe the 7 has a hard time because it could feel like it's constrained or obligation. Same thing with conversational companion is when the 7 probably wants you to be an audience that laughs and responds and interacts with all their big ideas without shooting them down. Because 7s will come up with 17 big grand ideas and none of them, have their feet on the ground or feel like they're actually workable solutions at times. Think of it like this. A 7 needs to have 4 bad ideas before they have that one really amazing idea that blows everybody away. So when they're going through their 4 bad ideas, be careful that you don't shoot those down because sometimes they have to get to the workable solution. So when they're going through all their ideas of what we could do for vacation, and you're thinking, it's never going to happen. We can't afford that. It's not realistic. We've only got 3 days and they want to drive to Seattle. It's never going to happen. Instead of telling them it's never going to happen, you might say, oh yeah, well, that's interesting. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So I think somebody who lets them explore the wild blue yonder without immediately turning it into, well, okay, so what are we going to do? How are we going to make this happen? We don't have the money for that. We don't. Relax a little bit, let them dream, let them enter the dream world, and sort of allow the balloons to rise, and don't pop all those balloons. They'll figure out that you just have to help guide them a little bit. They'll figure out that some of these things are not realistic. So I would say recreational companion is high. I'd say affection, yes, but they're going to get a little nervous if you're too demanding with affection or if it feels obligatory. Conversational companion, yes, but here's where the 7 has a hard time. They have a hard time staying focused on what you're saying. Listening. They have a hard time remembering and listening to what you're saying. And just don't be mad at them. Just realize, oh, they're a 7. Their brain is literally playing tricks on them. And it's so hard for a 7 to remain focused. And if you're going to be mad all the time that they're not listening or they're not remembering what you're saying, or that they have to walk in circles while they're talking to you, or walk in circles and fidget constantly while they're listening to you, you're going to be upset a lot, because that's the whole thing about being a 7 is it's hard to focus. Sexual fulfillment, high on the list. Physical attractiveness could be high on the list. Domestic support, they're going to need a lot of domestic support, because 7s, they don't want to live in the world of dishes and insurance bills and doctor's appointments, and all these things can feel life draining. They're not fun things. For a 7, they want to do it when they want to do it. And when they don't want to do it, it's really hard to make themselves do it. Now, of course, they need to grow up. Tom, you guys shouldn't be like this. You need to grow up. I understand. That's the whole point, is we don't want to grow up. We're wired this way, okay? I'm talking about compulsions and impulses. Yes, we should all be better. Yes, we should all be better. But it sometimes is difficult for us, okay? So I think quality time, love languages, physical touch, quality time, receiving gifts, because, 7s always want something else, right? But I think here's a caveat. They probably don't want the thing you're thinking to get them. They're probably wanting something that they may not even be telling you about, because if they told you every time they want something, they would never stop talking about what they want, and that seems selfish, and so we don't do that. So you might do better to give them cash or a gift card, or say, hey, what is it you want? Well, I want this very specific, I've got the red one, the yellow one, the green one, but I don't have the brown one. I need the brown one. And so if you just go get them something, they might be like, oh, great, thanks for that. But I really wanted this thing that I don't have that I need. Can I take this back? And you can be very hurt when a 7 takes back your gifts, because they don't want that. They want what they want. So join them in their adventures. Appreciate their goofiness. Let them be silly. Appreciate their silliness. They are the entertainer, and they may feel like they're entertaining the kids, where you feel like they're distracting the kids. You're distracting the kids, or you're saying things that are not funny to the kids. And that may all be true, but from their perspective, they're entertaining the kids and trying to help the kids not be bored. But see, boredom's their problem. Plan fun activities together and engage in playful physical touch. All right, let's move on to type 8. All right, type 8s. Don't mess with me. Never betray an 8. When an 8 takes you into their fort and decides that they're going to care about you, it is a wonderful thing, and you don't want to betray that trust. Okay? So loyalty is very important to an 8. Now, sometimes 8s don't always show loyalty, but they want you to. So 8s express love probably mainly through the idea of protection, protecting people. Think like you take your kids to the playground, and then there's this other family there that is rude and noisy and, just terrible. And that 8 might feel like, who are those people and why are they talking to my kid? And I'm going to love my kid by protecting him away from that snotty-nosed brat and his weird mom that won't stop talking to us. Come on, let's leave. We're getting out of here. Wait, if you love your kid, you let them play on the playground. No, if you love your kid, you protect them from snotty-nosed brat and their weird mom who's trying to sell you crap you don't want. So type 8s express love by protecting and standing up for their loved ones, and sometimes standing up to their loved ones. So they show love through bold actions and being dependable and reliable, and often feel and receive love by being respected and being trusted, and they appreciate it when you appreciate their honesty and their directness. And again, remember, a volatile type, so don't you overreact when they come home all upset, or when they say, why did you do that? You shouldn't have done that. You should have called them right now. And you're like, oh my gosh, now I've got two problems. I got my problem with my boss, and now my husband is yelling at me, telling me I shouldn't take that from them. So you got to be a little stable. Remember, they need a 9 wing. So there's going to be some 9ness that needs to be shown here in this marriage. I have their top need, maybe acts of service or quality time. Acts of service. What the 8 may not say out loud, and they may not even realize this until I say it. When I say it, they'll be like, oh crap. Yep. I hate to admit it, but that's kind of true. What the 8 is probably thinking is, just do what I say. Just do what I say to do. Just do what I tell you to do. Life would be so much easier if you just did what I told you to do. Now, you can see in their acts of service, and so that could be domestic support from the other list. Like, I need help with these 2 kids or these 3 kids. I need you to do this. The speaking style of 8s is commands. So they're giving all these commands, and their expectation is that you're going to do what I say. And so acts of service could be huge. I think quality time could be huge. Like, I matter, and I should matter to you right now. And when I'm talking to you, I want your attention. And when I'm talking to you, I want you to listen. I want you to write it down, and don't sign me up for crap if I didn't say yes to it. So quality time, I think, could be very important as well. When I think about the 10 needs, I don't know how you put respect on that list, but conversational companion. And an 8 needs somebody to banter with without them getting their feelings hurt. They want somebody to argue and banter and spar with, but not somebody that fights them. So don't fight them, but spar with them. Interact with them about whatever their problem is today, whatever their big gripe is today. You might respond with, oh my gosh, they said that to you? That's so stupid. Why would they say that to you? Oh my goodness. Then they did that? What did you say? Well, I said they can take this job and shove it. Oh, you can't say that to them. Don't do that. Say, oh, wow. Okay. Well, how did they respond? So I think 8s, they like to spar, and they like to banter, like the dog that brings you the rope. They want somebody to pull on that rope, and provide a little resistance, but they don't want you to overreact to them. Oh gosh, your words are so scary. You hurt me with my feelings. They're going to immediately think, well, I can't talk to you. Oh my gosh, be a person, don't you have any shame, sir? So I think you got to be able to the the thing I was thinking is like a cowboy riding a bull. Can you make it 8 seconds? You got to be able to, like, interact with this. Even the animal for the 8 is the bull. You got to be able to, like, stay on this bull without getting scared off, So conversational companion, honesty and openness, heck yes, 100%. Financial stability, yeah, especially with the self-preservation 8s, because they don't want to depend on anybody else. So again, it could be financial stability, or it could be like the 1's financial accountability. Why did you spend money? Why did you go to the store? How come you didn't tell me about this? We don't need this. Domestic support, I think, could be huge for 8s as well. Domestic support is, we got all this stuff that needs to be done. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. I need you to do this. Be direct and honest, and be able to handle their direct and honesty, their directness. Show respect for their strength and their leadership. Help them with their tasks that need to be done to show your support. I think that pretty well covers it. Okay, let's move on to type 9. Oh, type 9, the little woodland fairy out there, floating above the ground in their gentle, quiet, peaceful calm. And so nines often show love by creating environments where everybody feels heard and everybody feels understood and everybody feels valuable and avoids conflict. And so if you bring a lot of conflict to a nine, they're going to start to feel overwhelmed and they're going to feel very uncomfortable and they're probably going to withdraw from you. Now, if they're a nine wing eight, they might just come right back at you. No. But typically you're going to see nines not doing well in an environment where everybody's upset, where everybody's fragmented. The never ever behavior for a nine is never talk over a nine, because everybody should be heard. Everybody should be valued. Everybody should be listened to. So there needs to be a lot of patience and a lot of understanding and a lot of support. And nines feel loved when others appreciate that calm nature and their efforts to keep the peace. Oh, Mom, I don't think that's what Dad meant. I think what Dad was trying to say. Oh, Dad, I think you're overreacting here. I think what Mom... And so think that referee trying to get everybody to harmonize together. So you're going to feel like at times the nine isn't taking your side, especially if you're a six. You're going to feel like, why won't they take my side? Or why are they arguing against me? Keep in mind that the nine's probably not taking sides at all. They're probably just trying to see the value of both sides. And ultimately, their goal is for everybody to get along and for whatever this problem is to go away. I don't want problems. I want things to go calm, smooth, and everybody to be comfortable and everybody to not feel awkward. So gentle affirmations and physical affection are important. What would be the top need? Well, peace and quiet. I don't mean quiet like silence. I just mean quieting the storms, okay? So they value harmony. They value a conflict-free environment. That's not that they can't have conflict. I think some nines can really handle conflict well. It's just they don't want a lot of controversy in their lives. Life should be simple. We should go to work, then we come home, we eat together, we talk, we connect, we take the dog for a walk, we play with the kids, we watch a little TV, we go to bed. Why does it ever need to be more complicated than that? It shouldn't be. Okay, that's, I think, their perspective. So I think the love language, yes. Kind of like I said with the sixes, yes, I think all of them could be important. Physical touch, yes. Quality time, yes. Words of affirmation, yes. Acts of service, yes. Receiving gifts, yes. I can see where nines could struggle to know what their top need is, because remember, it's hard for nines to know themselves at all sometimes. And I could see where they might just value all of these equally. All of them are a level 5. Is there any that's higher than the other? I don't know. I would say all of them. I wouldn't be surprised. If you're a 9 and you're looking at the list going, I don't know. I think I like all of them. That's not me, Tom. I'm not like that at all. Okay, probably no 9 is ever going to do that, because they'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so when it comes to their 10 needs, affection, yes. Conversational companion, yes. Family involvement, yes. Because they want their family to be harmonious and peaceful. Think like the big band, everybody's playing together. Domestic support could be very important for a 9 who might let things go. Admiration could be really important for a 9 as well. So I have a hard time with 9s as well, trying to pick out these are obvious. These are obvious. I don't think it's as obvious with 9s. I don't think they have a lot of demands or needs, but they're humans. You're a human 9. That's probably the best thing I can say to you as a 9. You're a human being, and it's okay for you to have needs. You're not being a problem. You're not being a problem if you have needs. Your needs are real and they're legitimate, and it's okay to have them. And even better, it's okay to advocate for those needs. So it's completely appropriate for you as a 9 to say to your spouse, I think I need these the most. Is that okay? I think I need these the most. And let's work together to try to meet these needs. So show appreciation for their effort, create harmony, and appreciate their gentle encouragement and provide gentle encouragement to them. Provide a peaceful and supportive environment with a reassuring physical touch. I think that about gets it. Okay, so there's the 9. Well, I think as we wrap this study up, what's important to remember here is that there are some ways that feel more meaningful for you when another person is trying to love you. Understanding that about yourself could make all the difference in your relationship. And then understanding that your spouse is not you. They have a different perspective than you have, probably a different Enneagram type, and certainly different needs than you have. Knowing this allows you to be able to translate your love into a language that feels more meaningful to them. And remember, it's really hard to resist somebody who knows how to love you in a way that feels meaningful to you. So the important thing is that not only you understand this information, but then you apply this information into your marriage. So go find that list, just screenshot or whatever you got to do that list, either one of those lists, and then sit down and talk to your spouse. Talk to them. Have a conversation. It might feel awkward at first, but you'll make it through it. And then you can buy those books and learn more about how to love each other well. If you want help, reach out to me or somebody else. Find somebody who understands relationships a little bit and who's willing to walk beside you to help you improve the nature of your relationship. It's so worth it. So let's work on this together, and we're going to continue to improve our relationships so that you can live the happiest, most fulfilled life. There's my 7-ness right there, possible. Check out this playlist and this video in the description or in the end of this video. So if you want to know more about yourself and you want to continue growing, this channel has a lot of information. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out these videos. And again, put your comments in the comment section. Something you say might inspire and help another person who knows what they're going through. So we're in this together. And thank you guys so much for your support. And as always, be present to life. I'll see you next time.